Today we're going to unbox an Intel Express 10100 stackable hub built in 1997. And the stackable part is very important. I know a thing or two about stacks. You can stack these things together with cascade cables, and even better, Intel released a series of switches that can also be stacked via a matrix module, different cables of course. We'll stack the 10100 hub with an Intel hub I already have with a management module. Amazing pre-2000 web UI included. It's year 2000 capable though, don't worry. Then we'll get the switches involved. Intel had some software called the Intel Device View, which provided some incredible pixel art of both the switches and the hubs and let you manage them in one place. Then we'll take a look at a very interesting piece of history. Intel and Fore Systems teamed up in 1998 and created some Fore branded versions of the Intel Express switches with ATM module support, including an obviously rebranded version of the Intel Design View software. Get ready for a lot of physical and logical stacking action as we figure out how to get these things working together, and finally pressure test them with a Fluke LanMeter, which is capable of producing Ethernet traffic. Let's get into it. Here we've got an Intel Express 10100 stackable hub in the box. I don't know if it's complete in box. We'll find out together when we open it up. Came out in the late 90s. In fact, the box has a bunch of the original stickers. So it was manufactured July 21st of 1997. And this part's pretty interesting. It says it's a demo unit, perhaps. Stable model over there. 12-port, one per dealer, it says. So I think this is a pretty early unit. But we didn't need a sticker to tell us this was from the late 90s. Look at this artwork. I think they called him LAN Man internally at Intel. All you guys coming up in tech in the late 90s had this excellent whatever this style of art is. Kind of related to some of this action. Sometimes you had the bits blasting out of the CRT. You gotta love this 90s stuff, especially when it has anything to do with networking and the internet. We got the world over here and these computers connected on a cord that he's jamming through a window. If you're my generation, so you started your corporate tech career roughly 2010, we got this crap. It's called Corporate Memphis. And it was everywhere, it still kind of is everywhere, and it's garbage. But that's not the point. There's another interesting label to look at, and we'll open it up. This baby's been around, so it had a few shipping labels. I think I got it down to one of the very original, if not the original. It was shipped August 20th of 1997 from Ingram Micro in Fullerton, California, to Express Computers and Electronics in Kissimmee, Florida. And again, it's a demo unit. At least according to this description, I don't know what else that would stand for. Demo Intel Express 10100 stable model. Must have been, and this one per dealer thing is interesting. I promise we're gonna open it up, but I'll give you some context. You'll notice it said stackable. Well, I've got a bunch of these things, and not only can you physically stack them, it works out pretty nice because they're good looking units, and the switches especially have all sorts of interesting stuff going on. But you can also logically stack them, meaning you can interconnect these things with various cables. One type of cable for the switch, one for the hubs, and you can monitor them as one unit or administer them as one unit, even the hubs. And I don't think I have this particular 12-port hub model, assuming that's what's in the box and it matches the sticker on the side. I've done a couple videos on these stackers over here, and I think it was almost 2 years ago I did a full video getting the switches stacked and everything. So we're gonna open this one up. I'm always looking for an excuse to pull these off the shelf and do something with them. So I want to see if this one's operational. We'll refresh my memory on how this all works. If you've been a long time subscriber, this is gonna be a little bit of deja vu, but I promise I'll try to find something fun to do with them as we get it all powered up. If nothing else, it's glorious to see them all light up. So let me move these out of the way for a second and we'll unbox this. I opted to push them all slightly to the side for now. Chloe was not particularly helpful. I picked this up from X over on the Serial Port Discord for the cost of shipping, which adds up with these big guys, and I didn't even know it was going to come in the box, so I'm not expecting it to be complete in box by any means, but the box was a nice surprise. Yet another thing to store and keep forever, because I can't help myself. This is very exciting. It's definitely not one I have, and it's got the two modules on the front. I wasn't sure if it was going to have that. The two hubs I do have are a 12-port, what they called a 220T, and this is a 24-port 220T, and the 24-port doesn't even have the modules The 12 port does, but you'll notice it does say 220T on the front, and this one does not say a model number. I think it's on a sticker on the back, and it's quite a bit different. Let me stack the other 12 port up and I'll show you. The one I already had on the top, and it has collision warnings for each speed. This one only has a single collision warning. It can be managed, that's important. Then this one supports bridging. We've got this enabled disable bridging thing with a bridged light. I don't remember well enough to explain what bridging is. I'll look that up, refresh my memory, and explain it later in the video. And this will be hard to portray on camera. Now this was a working unit. This one's had a long life of doing a lot of networking. This one looks like it's barely been used. That aside, I think the finish is slightly different. So these, all the ones I have this sort of matte finish, and I always really liked it. But this one is glossy, which I'm guessing is more expensive. And this would be an earlier model. Different LEDs too. So these literally are the color green. You can see that there on the camera hopefully. And these are clear and they have different lights that light up behind them. All the other ones I have are like that. I think I've said it before, I'm kind of a sucker for collecting variants, just in general. So this is really tickling something in my brain I like. Let's get this out of here unless we need more comparisons. And don't worry, we'll be looking at these crazy modules later and see what's going on the back. I missed a critical difference though. This can only do 10 base T or 100 base TX. So 10 megabit or 100 megabit. And you literally change it with this button that doesn't press. It's just like a push button, it doesn't click or anything. We'll mess with that. On the back we've got power, of course, so it supports 100 to 120 volts or 200 to 240 volts, and it's got a little switch. Mine is in 115 volt mode, which is fine for this room. They've got a big warning about that because that would totally screw your stuff up. And then over here, this EE110TX12, I believe what that's telling me is this is an Intel Express 110T with 12 ports, so it's a 110T that I can now pair with my 220Ts. And then one of the only ways to make a hub interesting to film in a YouTube video is stacking them. So these ports here, as described in this diagram, take these special cables. They kind of look like SCSI cables. They might even just be SCSI cables. Not for SCSI the protocol, but literally the same cables perhaps. And you can chain up to 8 hubs together to make one logical massive hub. I suppose actually it'd be one physical massive hub. And it's our lucky day, because a long time ago I picked up these stacking cascade cable for express stackable hubs, made in USA. These are from November 3rd, 1998. I can't imagine what they would have charged for this back in the day. As you'll see, they are pretty beefy. I haven't opened this one. New old stock, guys, for stacking the hubs down here. Big old metal amp connectors on each end. Very thick cable because there's a ton of wires going through there. This one was made in Mexico by the Madison Cable Corp. For some reason it can withstand 75 degrees Celsius and 300 volts. The only other thing of note are the 2 modules on the front, and it's funny how I was excited, but right on that sticker on the box it even said 2 module version. In my current hub, I've got an Ethernet module, which I don't know if I've ever used, and then that wild-ass management module. But even Chloe over there is like, get on with it. Let's plug this thing in. We'll power it up, see if that works. Otherwise, maybe have to do some repairs or something. And then we'll try to pair it with the other hub that has that wild management module. Okay, I've got it plugged in. The power switch on the back is on. All we're going to see basically are some lights, and I'll leave the audio unedited so we can see how loud it is. It's already ready. Not terrible. It's not going to be great with 6 of these running. Let's see. Oh, we can switch from 10 to 100 megabit. It's kind of slow. You got to press it pretty hard. There we go. I would say it's fully functional. I guess let's see if we get a link light if we plug a real network into it. And we do. It's green down there. Nice. We're going to get these cascaded, and I was kind of looking down in here. This is the one I just unboxed. This is the one that has the management module. Oh no. I'm out of contact cleaner. This is terrible news. Gotta put it upside down. Anyway, we're just going to give ourselves the best chance we have of maybe it working right away. Diagram says on the bottom unit start on the left and take it up to the right. So that is what we're going to do. Very nice cables. And you got to twist them around a little bit. Okay, kind of interesting. My newer one doesn't have this dedicated power switch on the back. We'll leave that off for now. We're going to power this one up first and see if it still works. Okay, here we go. Initializing self-test RAM. This one does a little bit more of a light show for us. And it's ready. Let's see what IP it has. The last time I messed with all these, the retro rack did not exist. How do I use this? Escape. I should do a quick aside about the retro rack. I'm going to mention it several times in this video. This didn't exist back when I did my older videos on the Intel Express gear. It was just a dream in the back of my mind. It ended up being a Cisco-based network setup. This is hosting a 10000 network. And these things are what we in the biz call gigastacked. Gigastacking was literally a thing Cisco came up with and marketed. You use these gigastack modules. They accepted some cables on the front there, which look suspiciously like FireWire cables, but they're slightly different and would mess your stuff up. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure you can't just take a FireWire cable, put it in a Gigastack GBIC module, because of course Cisco wanted to sell you their special Gigastack cables. And before I built out the retro rack, I was seriously considering using the Intel gear as my main network backbone. In hindsight, I'm glad I didn't for a ton of different reasons, but it was definitely on the table. I don't want to set IP, I want to see the IP. Alright, we'll go into config. I can't find the IP in settings. I don't want to set it, I just want to see it. Figured it out. You go all the way over to about. And right there, the IP address. All of this Intel gear I have is using that IP. We're going to change that to the retro rack. But first, you'll see this managed light is illuminated. I believe it's saying it's managed by this module. And so what should happen is I'm going to boot up this one, and it'll also say it's managed because I cascaded them. So I'm going to try that now. Would help if I plugged it in. Okay, round 2. And instantly you can see it knows it's managed. It's part of this big stack. And now when I go into the stats menu, I can look at the port activity. So I can go into hub 1, look at port 6. I can go into this hub. It's called hub 2. Look at port 1. Let's try that. These buttons could use some deoxit. So stats, port, and you can see I can choose the second hub, port 1, and there are 0 packets flowing on it. Quick note about this thing, I realized as I'm editing some of this footage, when I'm lower with the camera and my eyes, I'll show you later, it looks like crap, but this is normally what it looks like. I think I'm getting a good capture here. So when I'm standing and looking sort of down on it, which is how I've been this whole video, I didn't realize the camera was so low. It looks pretty good, so sorry about some of the crappy footage. But when your eye level is below the screen, it does look like this. I think I'm capturing this accurately. So even to my eye, when I'm sitting down and looking up at this thing, can't read a thing. Out of curiosity, let's plug in my home network to port 1. And now, if we take a look at hub 2, the one I just plugged into, port 1, it has seen some packets coming from my home network. What to do now? It just works. We need to stack higher. Got my 24 port 220T stackable hub. It can also be managed and cascaded with those cables, so let's get that hooked up. Gotta unbox another one. New old stock from 1998. Kind of makes it more fun. Same deal. Start on the bottom left. Cascade up and to the right. I wonder if we could do a hub failure experiment. So, this thing is eventually going to be connected to the retro rack. We'll do that shortly. Now imagine if there was one computer on this one, it has to flow up through the middle hub. So if it's trying to talk to that network and this hub goes down in this current configuration, it's not going to work. However, if we chain this one up to here, these cables might not be long enough, theoretically that provides the backup route. That's why there's 2 ports on this. Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. We're going to try that. If I can find a long enough cable. Have to upgrade the power situation here. Well, it's not much of an upgrade. This thing's a piece of crap. In fact. Oh yeah, that's what you like to see. Lovely. Oh well. And if you're a regular viewer, you'll remember I have a pretty sketchy situation going on with one of these power strips. That's not the one I'm looking at on the bench here. These things just suck. So, assuming this garbage power strip doesn't burn my house down, what we should see is all three of them with the managed light on. Oh yeah. Kind of weird. While this thing is initializing, it's done now. The managed light is off on this one, off on this one, but it's just on the new one. Anyway, yeah, you can see hub 3 now. I mean, there's a lot to love about these things. Just visually, they're so good looking. I am kind of alarmed that we're about to stack 3 more later in the video, though. So I think what I'm going to do is let's get on the serial port of this one. We'll power these two off for now, so it's a little less noisy. Let's reconfigure it with an IP for the retro rack, and that way you can see the serial port and stuff. You can go in through here and set an IP, but I'd rather take a look at the serial console, and there might even be a web interface that I never checked. So basically this thing, you assign it an IP, and then it's just on whatever network is plugged into here. So we'll get the retro rack plugged in to one of these ports here. I've never used this Ethernet module. I'm not entirely sure what it would be for, because you have Ethernet right here. I don't know. Let me know. Oh, and for the record, when the other managed hubs are off, this thing of course knows, and you can no longer select the other hubs because they're gone. I was getting ready to get into the serial port, but something in here is like burning off. It must be really dirty in here. My eyes hurt, my throat is getting scratchy. It's really bad, and it doesn't take very long. One of these switches I got came in horrendous shape. Like, it was a borderline restoration, how dirty that thing was. So this has happened before when I've had the stack of this stuff fired on, but I always just figured it was that terribly dirty one that I tried my best to clean, but it's this one. So let's look inside and see if there's anything obvious going on. Like, my eyes are on fire. Again, it's been so long, so I don't actually recall if I've been inside this one. But man, it's pretty bad. Luckily, they're very serviceable. It's like 3 screws across the top, and I think this lid just kind of slides backwards. Actually, it just lifts up, and it's sounding pretty crusty. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty dusty. You can see. Yeah. But I've ran way worse, and this one just is killing me. Let's get these modules all out. Basically, I'm just going to use a paintbrush and try to knock the dirt off the best I can, because hopefully that doesn't make it worse. You may have noticed this one does have the feet, really nice rubber feet on the bottom, which unfortunately means it was not in a nice, clean data center. It was probably running in some shop somewhere. Pull these modules. I suppose there could be a ton of gunk in the power supply, and as that heats up, that's causing us some pain. I mean, it's just not that bad. Again, I mean, like, it's dusty. Maybe that's just enough to burn off. It's really late. I can't go upstairs and run the compressor and blast this with air, unfortunately. I'll just try to get some of the dust off. Maybe it's just dust. I already did the one on the right. Yeah. Like, fair amount, I guess. Well, it's certainly better than it was. My money's on this being full of dust and heating up and really causing a problem in here, but I'm not in a good position to fix that tonight, so see if I broke anything. Seems okay. I'll button it back up and we'll get on a serial port. We will persevere. It's back on, for better or worse. It's pretty miserable in here. As I recall, I set no password. Okay, and so this is the serial port of that hub local management. So let's get into configuration, IP, and we are going to change. Oh, that's weird. Oh, geez. This is terrible. This is terrible to use. Let's try that again. 10. Oh no. I'm having a hell of a time setting this. Okay, I think I understand what it wants me to do. 70, 10.0070 in the RetroRack network. I don't think the RetroRack existed when I set this up. So you highlight the number you want, and you press delete, and then you can type, and then you go over to the other one. It's not so bad once you get the hang of it, but it's not what you expect. I'm going to say use now. The management unit is rebooting. Don't remember if I need to save these settings. We'll see. So it's doing a full reboot like you saw earlier in the video, but now we can see it over the serial console. I love this stuff. It's worth the pain. Is it safe for little Chloe down there? You probably can't see her. Hopefully she's okay. So yeah, no user, no pass. That's how I have it set up. Does not appear that I need to save that in any way. So yeah, we can come in here and do all the same stuff we could on the previous screen. I would be fascinated to see the source code of this. It must be in C, I would assume. That could be a fun video. Write an app like this in C and run it on some ESP32 or something. Let me know in the comments. Yes. Okay. Let's see if we can ping this from the RetroRack after we plug it into the RetroRack. Cannot stress enough how much cancer I'm getting from this thing right now. My eyes are on fire. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So, port 1 into the RetroRack. Maybe not. See what's going on with that. A tale as old as time. I am trying to plug this hub straight into a switch. Does that make sense? I think I need a crossover cable. Let's see. This is my crossover cable. Transmit and received are... That didn't work either. No, it worked. Okay. I don't like that. Maybe that's what the Ethernet module's for. Let's try it out. That also didn't work. Auto-negotiate. Auto-negotiate. I thought MDIX was supposed to solve that problem for us. Which I have right there. Well, wait, what was that? Okay. Seems to like that. What the hell? Alright, this hub is obviously before my time. I'm going to take a stab at explaining what just happened. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I believe it all comes down to the crossover cable yet again. So this Ethernet module is providing MDI or MDIX. And I'm pretty sure plugging in here was the same as needing a crossover cable. So I'm trying to plug transmit to transmit, receive to receive. They need to be crossed. And that's what MDI is doing. So let's run an experiment. Put in my little crossover cable extension. Highly recommend making one of these because then you can just use a patch panel key, a keystone, and you're off to the races. I'm guessing this is going to work. Yep. Yeah. So what's happening here is they're basically just giving you a built-in crossover cable right over here. And that's why that works. That's as far as I'm going to go with that in this video. Now you know. Just kidding, I'm going to talk a little more. I think most, all modern equipment auto-negotiates this, just kind of figures it out between them, and you don't have to worry about this stuff as much anymore. And just to double down and become a complete idiot and get blown up, we'll talk about bridged. So these hubs are capable of two speeds, 10 megabit, 100 megabit. And my understanding is that they keep those two speeds totally separate. So if you got 5 10 megabit machines and 5 100 megabit machines, they're isolated, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so this thing is capable of bridging, letting your 10 megabit devices talk to the 100 megabit devices. I suppose maybe there's a way we could test that later. I'm not going to make any promises. I will say, though, that dust I knocked off just from the main board and the two cards. I didn't even touch the power supply. I kind of blew in there a little bit, but I didn't have any compressed air. It has made a tremendous difference. So I wouldn't say it's pleasant down here, but it's nothing compared to a couple hours ago when I first powered this on. So that's forward progress. Let's see if this is actually working. So ideally, this is on the RetroRack network. You can think of this as its own computer. at 10.0070. That's what we just set it to. So we should be able to ping it, and maybe it has a web management interface. I'm not sure. This is a Windows XP VM that is on the RetroRack network, and I should be able to ping that management card, and I can. I'm getting responses. I'm not so sure if it has a web GUI, but let's find out. Oh, okay. Should be blank blank. Well, that's right. This thing used to belong to VX Humvee, whatever that is. I did not know about this, as I recall. It is year 2000 capable. That's exciting. Welcome to the Express Stackable Hub Embedded Web Server. General configuration. Oh man. What would you do with this? Wow. I think you would monitor things. So, yeah. This is too good. Stack statistics. Well, let's power the other ones on and see if they show up in this UI. Let's get the whole hub stack plugged in. Also, I take back everything I said about this thing getting better. It's horrendous. I left the room for 20 minutes and it's terrible. I'm going to need to give this thing a full bath someday because this is not sustainable. Don't worry though, Chloe already gave up. She's in the other room playing with Mr. Owl. All of them are up and say they are managed, so that's good. She's back. Chloe, it's not safe. It's like asbestos blowing out of this thing. It's ridiculous. There is not a single thing in this world that bothers her. Back in here, have not refreshed the page yet. Oh, it has changed. It knows about something. Okay. So, Hub 1 is the main guy with the little screen. And then I can click Hub 2, which is physically the second one. So, did that right. And it knows the little name. Got the pixel art there. Love it. And the third one on the bottom. What more could you want? Yeah, this is pretty sweet. This is working real nice. I'm just poking around here a little bit. Hub speed. Change Hub 1 speed, Hub 2 speed, Hub 3 speed. So you can select each hub you care about and configure it. And I believe 2 of mine are auto speed hubs. So that would be Hub 1. What are they called? The 220Ts are auto speed hubs. So the one on the top and the one on the bottom, I don't get any options. And the second one, which is the hub we just unboxed today, it's operating at 100. I can change it to 10. I just saw the light change. I love this. This is what I live for. Let's just have a little look. We are using frames, I believe. Look at this one. They're commenting out the JavaScript in case you have a browser that doesn't support JavaScript. If you know, you know. Well, I think that's a successful hub-only stack tour. Let's get the other stuff involved. There is another UI, which I think you'll be very impressed by. Okay, I've got the switches out, and we will be stacking them, aka interconnecting them with this cable. And then, once we get this functional, the same way we got the hub stack functional, I've got a bonus 7th switch, so keep watching. First, let's have a look at some of the modules, give you the lay of the land here. They made these stack interface modules, or SIMs, and this is the most basic one with one connector, and those blue cables plug in on the other side. Some of them got a little more sophisticated, so here's a SIM input right here, and this can also do 1000 SX Ethernet over fiber right here, and this is a 1000 base SX, so 1 gig Ethernet right there with one of these module connectors. So I'm pretty sure you could have interconnected 2 switches at that speed over the stacking cable. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here. I believe you can also interconnect 2 switches directly with the SIM modules, and then they basically share a backplane, I think. Hopefully I'm getting this right. This is my recollection. In my case, I've got 2 24-port switches. You could turn them into one 48-port switch, and all the traffic can flow between them on this thing, I think. or you can go all out and really get stacking with the matrix module. So this is going to be sort of the main switch in the stack, and we can connect up to 6 others with those cables. That's what we're going to do. But first, we are just going to get this thing connected up to the retro rack, and over the console, I will give it an IP on the retro rack, and then we'll stack everything up with the cables, and we'll look at a much more interesting UI tool than that built-in embeddable hub stuff. I wonder how much power these babies are going to pull when they're all on. I've got a bunch of other stuff on this 15 amp circuit. I have to think about that. Power this guy up. We're connected to the serial port here. Excellent. Yeah, this thing is at 192.168.888. We don't want that, so I can log in as administrator. I don't think I have a password. I don't. That's good. You can see this one's a little different, a little more sophisticated than the hub, obvious reasons. So configuration, oh boy. Guess we'll just do quick setup. Yeah, there we go. We'll put this on 10.00.75. Oh, gotta fix that. No surprises here. It will remain the matrix host. Location doesn't matter. No password, no user password. Confirm. Now this part tricks you. You need to persist these settings. There we go. Save to flash memory. Otherwise, when I reboot this thing, it's gonna forget everything I just did. There's also like all sorts of stuff you can do. You can load a configuration from a TFTP server. You can save your configuration. Pretty typical stuff though, I guess, for the day. Okay, I think we're done in here for now. Did you notice I keep making the same mistake? Got the patch cable in here now, and we do have a link light. And unfortunately, the dust that this one burns off really ravages your throat, and the dust that this one burns off destroys your eyes. So it's gonna be real nice when they're all on. You can see I was running some failed ping experiments before I put my crossover cable in. I think I just called it a patch cable. It's a crossover cable. We'll see if we can ping it now. Come on. What? There it goes. We're good. Okay. Now, as I recall, you load up Intel Device View. This was very hard to find. I hope it's on this machine. I put it on the archive. I'll link to it down in the description. Get ready. Assuming you haven't seen this before. Oh yes. These guys are doing some serious networking. So my existing stack is all destroyed, but it did find this one on its own, which is pretty sweet. Can I just delete this? Yeah, whatever. I think you can see where we're going with this. So we're going to start plugging in those other guys and turning them on. Let's do that. This one's kind of weird. I have this 1 gig module that does have a stack interface module, and then I've got another one. I think I was just storing it in here so I wouldn't lose it. We'll see if that causes us a problem, but I'm going to plug port 2 up here into this one, port 3 into this one, and power them on. These cables are quite thick, and as you can see, I think this would become a complete mess. Well, it's going to become a complete mess just for me in a data center, so not sure what the plan was with that. Guess you just loop them like that. Let's get these things some power. They're coming online. These cables are kind of ruining my whole vibe here. Tape those over there or something. Doing their little boot up sequence. Whoa. Hopefully you can see this all at once. Module status is good. It's blinking that it has a link. This one is blinking that it has a link. And so does this one. This one seems angry. It might not like that it has 2 of these. I might have to pull that. And right away, Intel Device View started noticing things. So I'm going to choose that one. I am going to configure the IP addresses for stack management. And we can do consecutive like that. So the other 2 are just going to take 7.6 and 7.7, which is pretty sweet. And we'll say OK. Yes. Not a bad looking stack, if I do say so myself. We will spend a little more time in here later, but you can select individual ports and configure things about them and view the activity on them. It is complaining about different time settings. Can we do something about that? Auto fix. Ooh, yeah. Look at that. This thing is pretty sweet. I don't know if I'd want to like stake my career on it. in terms of being an administrator, but I think it's going to sync the time of the other two to the root one. Yeah, it's going for it. So it's applying all the settings of the one with the matrix module on the top there to the other ones. And I am going to save that to the flash. And now we get the full view. So we can see that we've got stuff plugged in to these green ports here for the stack. We can see way over here. That's where the retro rack is plugged in. We can look at port details, see what's going on. I believe you can click this to do stuff about the whole stack, which is kind of cool. Give it a name, Collab Stack. Okay, let me show you something real weird. This arrived in the mail the other day, and I'm hoping it survived its journey. Let me get it out. It survived, but it definitely got banged around, and it was already sold as is anyway. But what are we looking at here? This is clearly one of the Intel 510Ts, but it's Fore branded. Fore was a big name in networking, but they were doing ATM, sort of a totally different approach than Ethernet. And you probably recognize their gear, Fore systems, that kind of looked like this back in the day. But this is obviously an Intel unit. As in, they are totally the same. Even the little bump out where Intel puts their logo, Fore slapped their logo on there. A viewer named Jim reached out over email and gave me the lead on these things and gave me some of the software that Fore used to stack these. Based on my research, it is obviously just a rebranded version of the Intel stuff, but we'll give that a shot. Well, it turns out, way back in 1998, Intel and Fore formed an alliance. Fore wanted 100 megabit Ethernet in their stuff. Intel was interested in having ATM capabilities in their stuff, so they rebranded these Intel switches and they built some ATM modules for them. I'm guessing this is full-blown ATM fiber of some caliber. This one's called ATM Stack. Don't know what that's about. And then there's our regular old SIM we just got familiar with. Based on some articles I've read, this is running some Fore firmware, but it's obviously the Intel unit, and they just built the ATM module to whatever spec Intel required for these things. I believe it is interchangeable with the other units in terms of management, so we should be able to get this in our stack here. It's got the rack ears, which is odd, because it also has 3 of its 4 rubber bumpers it used to have. I think I'm going to pull those off violently with a metal tool. Oh, come on. There we go. It's not even sticky. Perfect. I'm also going to take the rack ears off. I have a couple sets of these rack ears for these units, but not enough to do all of them at the moment. I don't have a rack to put them in either. This one has sustained some damage, and that's not what the eBay picture looked like, so this was on the corner where the box was all crumpled. Luckily, I think this thing took the brunt of the hit. Hopefully everything else inside is okay. It was sold as untested, as is, 4 parts, but these things are, network equipment in general is usually pretty resilient. I'm going to open it up. It looks pretty clean, but make sure there's no surprises in there for me. A little dusty, but no worse than the other ones I'm running. I might knock some of this off the fan. The fans kind of slide out, which is kind of nice, and you can clean them up a little bit. Yeah, that one could use a little dusting. There's the ATM module, big Fore Systems chip on there. This dust is pretty loose. It's not grimy or anything. And it's pretty gnarly over in this corner where the fan was, so because I can, it's not late, I'm going to blast this with the air compressor real quick and I'll be back. Oh, bodge wire spotted. Really not that bad for how complex this thing probably is, and they probably didn't make a lot of them, so yeah, impressive. Well, I'm glad I did that. That was a surprising amount of dust in this thing. It's still going to smell like hell, but that's fine. I was also reading, at least this power supply, which I assume is the same as the rest, can theoretically pull 4 amps, though I doubt it would at any given time. It's even got an Intel part number on there. Probably bring out the kilowatt, plug a few in, and see how much current they're drawing before I power on the whole stack at once. Let's see what this thing does. I think it's just going to work. Ooh. Fan needs some help. That's not good. Oh, it's just vibrating in the case. Okay. We can do something about that. Booting it back up, it does not make that terrible noise. The case holds the fan in position. All the lights on here seem totally fine. And this came to life on the serial port. 10.136.7.249 in a former life. There's no way this is going to be nothing. Illegal password. Let me refresh my memory on how you factory reset these things, because you can, luckily. I watched my previous video to refresh my memory on how to reset these things. Now, this is all assuming that the Fore firmware is similar enough to the Intel stuff that it's the same procedure. I'm guessing it is. So you hold the reset until the status light blinks with the machine on. Okay, that's a good sign. That's what I want to see. And then over on the serial console, I had that old screen up. It said testing hardware, then it says welcome to the boot prom V1.08 maintenance mode, and we're at this maintenance prompt. I do not know why things are inverted. The colors, something to do with the escape sequences from the previous screen, I think. Anyway, we want to do run def parm. I think that's default parameters. And it's going, I think. It's going to do this and reset it to factory settings in memory. And then we'll be able to get in without a password, I think. And then we can persist those factory settings. And then we'll try to get it stacked. Isn't that weird? You see that flash with like modem haze style AT commands? What's going on there? Local management. We are in. And you can see the default IP has been reset. I should be able to get into administrator with no password. We can. Let's do a quick, well, I'm not going to put it on the 10.00 network. I'm going to see if the matrix switch can find it. I think it can. Save our default settings here. Yes. Says it was successful. Let's get it in the stack. It's getting pretty ridiculous. 4 switches up here. This is the main switch in the stack with the matrix module. I've got one of those blue cables going up to the SIM here. I don't have the energy or the heart to deal with that ATM stack connector. I don't know what that's about. Of course, this is going to the retro rack. Let's just turn the switches on and see if the Intel Device Manager can find the Fore ES-2810. That was uneventful. The old Belkin was off. Okay. Round 2. Here they come. And yeah, I know I should have covers on the fiber optic stuff with the lasers. I'm not looking in there. So far so good. On the Fore unit, the stack interface module SIM light is on now that it's plugged in. I like that. Unsupported device detected in the stack. Stack management will not be possible. What the heck? I'm sure that's like, oh, it just gave up. The whole stack dies when you plug in a bad item. Enterprise grade. Why would they do that? Wouldn't they just boot out the bad device? I'm going to unplug it, see if it dynamically fixes itself. The whole stack just dies. Do not save that configuration to flash. Let's fire it up again. The whole stack's broken. No, it's coming back online. Okay, there we go. I don't think I actually saved the fact that I had stacked them. Though they did. Like, why can't I see the whole stack now? It's amazing this didn't take off. Sure, whatever. So then it asked me to stack them again. I seem to remember this. Maybe every time I messed around with this thing, I had to like reinitialize the stack. Maybe something's wrong with some of these pieces of equipment. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. But anyway, the stack's back. It lost its name. So most of mine are running very similar firmware. Wow. You can see the date it was activated, 01 and 02. The stack is back. Let's plug the hubs in. Brought in some reinforcements to power some of this via a dedicated circuit from the other room. And then I plugged this one in to the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could run 5 of these no problem on 115 amp circuit, which not too surprising. Hard to get everything in view. Almost everything's on. Now everything's on. It's quite the sight. Let's get the hub. Whoa. Into the matrix switch here. Okay. As with most things in this video, I can't remember if I've tried this before, but I was hoping that it would see the hub. That would be sweet. It's not seeing anything yet. I guess I can try to manually add a device. So the main hub was at 70. It sees it. Okay. It's constantly asking you to put stuff in flash memory. Sure, fine. We get 2 stacks. I was really hoping to see one big stack, but it does make sense. They're not really the same thing. It made subnet 10, which is actually a superset of this down here. I don't really understand what it's doing. But we can see and interact with the hubs. Yeah, you can mess with it from here. This is cool. It is constantly asking you to restack them. Okay. A little bit of a letdown. I still like it though. It's not that loud. I'll show you without noise canceling here. It's more of an issue of the toxic fumes coming out. It is impressive though. But let's turn this off for health reasons for the moment. We're going to experiment with this Fore machine and see if we can get it on the RetroRack network. And then we will see if it shows up in the copy of the Fore StackView, whatever software I've got. Sorry, this was like the extent I had thought about this video. Don't really have much of a plan from here. I just wanted to stack everything up. But Jim sent over a copy of Fore StackView 2.0. I like this part. They've clearly removed the Intel logo from those Intel devices. What was this alliance? Like what? It's so sloppy. They left all the Intel branding colors and just slapped the Fore logo on there and their name. Trying to get the ISO over to the Windows XP machine, and I don't know if I have a ISO mounting utility, so I'm gonna get to work here. This VM is struggling. I wonder if it's out of disk space. Plenty of space. I'm also realizing I can just mount that ISO as a disk. I'm gonna do that. I'll be back. Oh yeah, Fore StackView as the CD-ROM on this VM. Yes, I know my Proxmox is very ancient. We're cruising now. I even had to turn that Fore switch off. My throat, oh. Okay, I'm gonna stop complaining about that, I'm sorry. It's just really bad in here. It'd be really funny if this thing causes problems with the Intel Design View install, because it's basically the same thing. So far so good though. Now, if I'm reading the manuals correctly, which I might not be, there might have been other Fore management software that you could use this thing with, and maybe I don't know why they would do this. First boot of the Fore StackView. Oh, they got the Fore logos on that one. I guess we'll just use the wizard. I just booted it up, so it might take a second. In fact, it might take a few minutes. They talk to each other somehow. They're broadcasting even if they're on different networks, I think. How about that? Oh boy. 79. That works. So I wonder how different these really were, the Intel Device View versus the Fore StackView. Obviously, they're sharing some artwork and assets. I wonder if this is a newer version than what I've got. I don't know. I don't wonder enough to look, I guess. Are you kidding me? What's wrong? Just going to try it again. What? Maybe it is broken. Okay. They're apparently talking over boot P. This just broke. Oh no. This is not very useful. When in doubt. It listened to my DHCP server and took 103. I guess that's fine. The application is freezing. I think that's my VM's fault though. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see this pixel art Fore ES-2810 switch. And this is interesting. It thinks the module, the ATM module, is no good. Wow. So usually, even if nothing's plugged in, it'll show it, like in this slot A. Let's pull the module and clean its edge connector. How about that? Interesting, even with nothing plugged in, it still says SIM green, and this RX light is illuminated. Okay. Let's pull this module out and clean it up a little bit. Guess I could have done this while I had the lid off, but try to get some contact cleaner back in there. Yeah, I think it reached. It looks clean, but you never know. I'll give that the same treatment and I'll reseat it a few times and power it back on. I think my only physical complaint about these things is it can be a little, sketchy isn't the right word, finicky to seat these things because the slot they slide into flexes back and forth. The only way you can really truly seat them safely and cleanly is with the lid off, which kind of defeats the purpose. I'm going to do that a couple times. Other than that, these things are like tanks. You can throw them across the room and they'd still work. These screws were actually kind of loose as well. And tightening them down does help ensure the card is fully seated. Okay, he's booting back up now. Same behavior with the lights, just the SIM and the RX. Perhaps this module won't boot up without an ATM uplink or something like that. I don't know, I didn't look up the manual on this thing. Let's see what the StackView has to say now. Well, no difference. The error still says ATM module has failed to boot. It's complaining about the ATM uplink port. Very suspicious that we don't at least see the module in the UI. It's possible it has gone bad. It's possible that it is not compatible with this version of the Fore StackView. Kind of find that hard to believe. This one's got a copyright as late as '99, and I think that's roughly when they were promising to release that ATM module. Well, these modules are very hard to hunt down. It took me a long time to find that matrix module, and it was like 50 bucks. Can't imagine what the Fore ATM modules cost, but it's also possible I'm just doing something wrong, but I am glad we get to see this thing here. Broke down and found a manual for this thing, and I have bad news. Remember how my CPU light never turned on? Well, if it's off, that means there was a CPU error during boot. Which means, yes, something is wrong with that module. And you know, they're like 50 bucks before shipping, untested. Wonderful. And remember how there was an ATM stack and a SIM stack port. If I'm reading this correctly, the one on the left, the ATM stack, can also go into a matrix module and provides ATM traffic connectivity between that switch and the rest of the stack, and the one on the right does Ethernet, which is what all the other stacks are doing, I guess. Way back earlier in the video, I had mentioned I wanted to connect this one to this one to make it redundant in the middle so that if this one goes down, these can still talk. I don't think you're supposed to do that. The stickers don't say anything about that. I even found the manual, and it also does not mention that as a feature. And all the manufacturers that made these stackable hubs always sold you a special part number for the cable. And I know like Nortel, they support this, and there was a special part number for that cable that they wanted to sell you. Intel does not have one of those, so I don't think it would cause any problems, but we're not going to do it. The Gigastacks can do it, for sure. I think what was leading me down that course is I know for sure these Nortel Networks Business Policy Switch 2000s can do it. These are switches, but very similar cascading strategy. And they look pretty similar on the back, so you can cascade in and out. And I don't have enough to make it interesting. I would need at least a third. But you can make a full loop, so the one in the middle could go down. Need to find another one of these someday, and I'll do that. Let me know if you have any interest in that. I've been lifting these 4 switches up and down as one unit to leave everything plugged in, and that is not easy. But I do have this spare stack interface module. Let's put this in the Fore system. I did not see anything in the documentation about it being supported in there, but you never know. Let's give it a shot. The SIM modules have basically no components on them. I'm guessing it's just Ethernet, and the stuff in the chassis takes over. Got this guy all wired up to the matrix module, and I even found a blanking plate, but I either never had the screws for it or don't know where they are. And I can't find them, unfortunately. I had more rack ears than I thought. I've got enough to rack up 4 of these bad boys. Let's find out if that thing's compatible with the Fore firmware or whatever's running on there. See if we can see it in the device view. Coming up. Like, were they even trying? One of the selling points had to have been that they were very similar and that you could, if you knew one, you knew the other, right? Ooh, I don't want to launch 4 actually. Let's start with the Intel device view. Device tree might not function properly. Oh, the retro rack is off. One moment. Let's get her booted up here. This will take just a minute. It's sort of relaxing watching all the SIM module lights blink. It's sort of like a runway at the airport at night. I was afraid of something like this. It only knows about the Fore switch for some reason. It won't let me view it. The network is fully up and it still gives that error. Let's try to find a device. This is the matrix module switch. Good. It's out there. It exists. So basically, having the Fore switch in the stack ruins everything. Made it this far. I'm going to try unplugging it. And for the record, this copy of Intel DeviceView is probably about a year newer than the Fore software I have. So it should all just work. Let's see what Fore has to say about it. Just for fun, I'll try adding it in the Fore. I know this is like really boring. I'm just going to restart the VM, see what happens. Reboot didn't help. I don't recall if I started Intel DeviceView after running the Fore StackView. Something bad has happened. I'm going to uninstall the Fore StackView, see what happens. In a previous life, shortly after college, I had to help write some installers for Windows. This would have been Windows 8 era and Windows 10, I suppose. No, not even Windows 10 maybe. Windows 7, Windows 8. I don't remember, but it's bad. It's like really bad. Like, don't put this on the user. You should know what you need to get rid of or not. Like, you said I wasn't needed. That was the SNMP agent that the Fore program uses. Something tells me in their haste to rebrand Intel DeviceView that installing them both at the same time might cause problems. That's my theory. I think my theory has been confirmed. So I uninstalled the Fore StackView, and now the Intel DeviceView throws more errors when I launch it, and can't even initialize properly. So let's hope the uninstaller for DeviceView is very thorough, doesn't leave any sneaky registry entries, and we can reinstall it and start fresh. I can't find my copy of Intel DeviceView, but lucky for us, I personally put it on the Internet Archive in March of 2024. So let's download it again. Reinstalling Intel DeviceView. To be fair, this is not the ideal setup. It just complained that Internet Explorer 4 wasn't installed, and some features might not be available, so to Intel's credit here. This VM also has multiple network interfaces. That is how it's reaching out to 10.00 on the RetroAct network. And they are asking if I want to blast out SNMP traffic. I think I said boot P. SNMP must be how they're talking. On the local network only or the entire network, which might result in excessive dial-up charges. That wouldn't be good. We'll leave it like this for now. Can't remember what I did last time. Launching, no errors, that's good. Definitely stored some stuff about the previous setup because it still remembers some of my stuff. Let's go turn the stack back on. Chloe and I are going to go take care of that. It wants me to configure the stack once again. There we go. We're back. Previously, I think having device view, which I think I've called design view about a million times in this video, installed along the Fore StackView maybe caused our problem. We will definitively test that and see if we can't destroy the stack again. Okay. Oh yes. It found what it thinks is another Intel 510T switch. It's not totally wrong. And it says no response from device. Interesting that it's back to its factory reset IP. Can I talk to this thing? What if we can do a full stack setup again? I don't actually know how to get that stack setup window where you can choose all the devices. It just kind of shows it to me sometimes. Yeah, I don't think these things are getting along. I think you plug the Fore switch into a stack and it starts rebooting or something. We do have a Fore switch stack though, sorta. Let's set the IP manually from the serial console. Nope, it just froze. Yeah, I think it's boot looping when it's plugged into, yeah, I can't even interact with it when it's plugged into the matrix module. Yep, wouldn't recommend this configuration in your production Intel Express setup. I'll get it unplugged. That's a little bit of a bummer. Well, since this video is kind of off the rails anyway, and one could argue I haven't even done anything with them. Let's see if we can generate some traffic and see it in the Intel device view. I was going to use this one. This is a Fluke cable tester, and I had forgot that it is just a LAN cable meter. viewer named Brad sent this in, and it's just like complete in case, I guess you could say, for testing probably mostly Ethernet cables. This one cannot generate traffic, but just messing around with it. Check this out. It works. Can test my 10 base T cables with it. So yeah, when I eventually get into the older Ethernet standards, the BNC connectors there, I will be using this thing. So huge thanks to Brad. Bought this other one over here on eBay, and it can generate traffic. And it is a unit, the 686 Enterprise LanMeter. And of course I can't find the power supply. Battery in this was not 9-volt battery. It's long dead. Let me look around. Chloe, where is it? My money's on somewhere in there. So I've configured this thing to generate traffic from 10.00.104, that doesn't really matter. And then it's gonna blast it at a VM that's on the RetroRec network, I think. I doubt it's gonna be anything these switches can't handle, but it is plugged into the matrix module switch just for fun. I'll boot the stack back up and start generating traffic, and maybe we can see it in device view, I don't know. The stack is back up and healthy, despite saying it's disconnected over there. And this appears to be the steady state of total packets. So the matrix host is doing something like 20 packets a second. I think my setting was thousands per second, so I'm gonna go run the traffic generation. That Fluke claims it's generating 2,500 frames per second, but I'm not really seeing it here. It is plugged into this port right here. Let's see if we can look at the port activity here. Not a lot going on. Yeah, it's like not even 1 packet per second. We're gonna mess around with that thing. Okay, here's some more stats for the port. I bumped up the traffic it's sending. Not a lot of packets. However, on the right, you can see we've got a lot of jabbers. And those, I believe, are frames that are larger than allowed by the Ethernet standard. And it's saying that we're getting roughly 1,800 of those per second, which is what that thing is generating on purpose. It's like trying to cause problems on the network, I think. Apparently also causing problems with my graph here. Now we're cooking at 12,000 packets per second flowing through the matrix host. I had to set the MAC address of the destination for the traffic generation as the right VM, and check a look at this. This is the VM I'm sending traffic to. So it is on 10.00.102. Basically, I had to come in here and grab the MAC address and plug that into the Fluke. The Fluke is generating traffic as 10.00.104. So look what we're getting here. All sorts of stuff coming in from that guy. Here's the port activity specifically for that port. This one is like really slow to populate, if it will at all. Here's a ridiculous 3D diagram of total packets for each port in the stack. The matrix module switch is the red area. It's got 2 ports that are active and they're both pumping out. You can't even see the number. Someone had fun building this, I'm sure. So let's plug the traffic generation into another switch and see if we can bump the total packets per second across the stack entirely. This thing is banging away at the network, 6,000 frames per second, which it says is 73% of what it's capable of. And I lowered the size down so it's not those jabber frames and just getting blocked, I assume, by the switch, to the typical 1,518 bytes per frame. And you can dynamically adjust it, so I can bump up the frames per second, and you can see it's turning red here, and yeah. We're starting to get what it's saying are collisions occasionally. Anyway, we can end this for a second. So that had been just the main matrix module switch dealing with traffic coming into this port and going out to the retro rack. So let's bring it down to, I don't know, port 1 on this switch, and let's run that test again. And then I've bumped this up to 7,000 frames per second. Will it go any higher? It will. Okay, it's at 8,000 frames per second. It's at its maximum it can produce. And back over here, The matrix host is dealing with 6,000 packets per second, and of course so is the 510T switch. I don't have a really good gauge about how much I'm maxing this thing out. I mean, it's only capable of 100 megabits per second. I guess I could do the math, but Intel Device View will do it for me though. Those switches are at around 12% utilization, so we are barely even making these things sweat. I need to get some more Fluke traffic generators. Well, I think that was kind of cool. Hopefully you could follow what I was up to there. That Fluke LanMeter kind of matches the overall aesthetic of the stack here. One last time, let's watch them all power up together. Well, I didn't really have a point going into this video other than stacking these things up, and I think we more or less succeeded. The stars kind of aligned. X reached out on the Serialport Discord with that 10100 hub we just unboxed. Really glad it was a variant I didn't happen to have. And then basically in the same week, a viewer named Jim reached out and told me about that Fore variant up there. We've had mixed success with that. I do really like these things. I think if you had all your firmware lined up and you weren't trying to throw the Fore stuff in the mix with the other ones, I don't know. I thought that was supported, but probably I need to have everything kind of run in the same firmware version. Maybe you're only supposed to use the Fore StackView. I'm not really sure. I can say though, if you just had these sitting around as switches, they can do VLANs and stuff. You can configure all that on the serial console and you weren't even bothering stacking them. They're rock solid. I suspect they are still out there running, believe it or not. I actually had the great privilege years ago of interviewing Doug Boom, who worked at Intel when these were produced, and worked with the people that created the software and the hardware. Super proud of that video. I think it's a great interview. I'll link it down in the description if you want to go check it out and learn more about the history of these things. This is the third video I've done on these things, so I apologize to longtime subscribers that are wondering, why are you doing this? I've already seen this. Tried to throw some new stuff in the mix here. I learn a little bit more about these every time I dive in. I'd love to have somewhere to like display them. They're usually on a shelf right behind the camera here, hidden out of view. I think they're really cool looking units. Just don't have the space to rack them up or have them around all the time. So once I pulled them on the bench, I started wanting to experiment with a bunch of different things because I know I'm probably not going to touch them for another 1 or 2 years. That'll do it for these. The modules can be pretty expensive on eBay, but if you want to do like a retro home lab type of thing and you can find a good deal on one of these units, they're fun. You can mess around with the UI, you can configure them over the serial console. The best way to get the modules is to buy them on eBay with the modules already in there. If you try to buy the individual modules, it's pretty cost prohibitive if you can even find them anyway. Well, this video is long enough. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I am trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I think I'm at 72,000 at the moment. And of course, if you'd really like to support the channel, I'm on Patreon. I post behind the scenes type videos, the occasional early release, and you also get access to the Serialport Discord where I hang out quite a bit. As always, thanks for watching. You made it through a slog of Intel Express networking shenanigans. I'll catch you in the next video.